Hey guys, welcome back to the Slot Pod, episode 6. Today we're going to be breaking down our breakout players for the NFC Conference. We got a lot of great content for you guys today, but like always, we want to start with some NFL news, some things that are going on, and something that literally just happened,
a
40
couple
minutes
minutes
ago?
ago.
Yeah.
It's reported that Nick Chubb is signing with the Texans, was it?
Nick Chubb will be signing with the Texans, so he'll be joining a running back room that includes Joe Mixon, Dameon Pierce, Woody Marks, along with a few others. My expectation is that Mixon, Chubb, Pierce, as well as Marks all make the roster. I think Agunbowale is number 5 over there, so he probably won't make it. But talk to me about Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I think that maybe a couple of years ago that would have been a pretty scary duo.
Mm-hmm.
But now Nick Chubb is dealing with that horrendous injury he had last season where his leg literally snapped in half. But Joe Mixon, he's still a pretty solid running back. He'll put up a good amount of yards per game. You know, he was scoring touchdowns for the Texans. That's all they really needed him to do.
Yeah.
And I think Nick Chubb, once he's fully healthy, fully recovered, and gets back in his groove, then the Texans will start seeing some Lions-like production coming out of that running back room.
Yeah, I'm just kind of hoping it's not like one of those Le'Veon Bell type signings where it's just like he's just there to be there. Mixon was efficient to start the year, but was extremely efficient towards the end of the year. I think weeks 12 through 18, he was just like not efficient at all. So it's going to be interesting to see if they maybe throw Chubb in there as like a change of scenery running back, but like he kind of plays the same way as Mixon, like really just hard nosed. I want to get to the end zone type guy. So
I'm surprised it took someone this long to pick up
I agree. Yep.
Nick Chubb.
I agree.
I mean, I get that he's coming off injury, but like it's Nick Chubb.
It's kind of disrespectful. Nick Chubb was a top. I would say he was a top 3 running back at one point in his career. He was a top 5 for maybe 2-3 years there. So I guess we'll see what happens with them. But I think it's an interesting dynamic. It's going to be fun to see what Nick Chubb can do on the Texans if he can impact them at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's just kind of to break out some news that's been going on. Oh, another thing, Aaron Rodgers to Steelers. It's something that we've been talking about for a few weeks now. Something that we obviously expected to happen. But that does mean that Will Howard will not be the starting quarterback. Who
sadly
I wanted to start for the Steelers. But what do you think of Aaron Rodgers for the Steelers? Who does it help? Who does it hurt?
I mean, it kind of hurts the Steelers. I mean, I feel like they would have had the same result if they started Will Howard, or if they started Mason Rudolph, or if they started Aaron Rodgers. They're all kind of on the same level right now. That might be a hot take, but Aaron Rodgers is just a shadow of what he used to be. He's kind of just too old to really produce how he did. I think the Steelers are just looking to stay over 500, get that 8-9 win mark. So I don't know. I think they just want Mike Tomlin to keep his winning season streak alive. But other than that, it was pretty much expected. So there's not really much to say about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the Steelers are just looking towards next year. I think we even mentioned that in prior weeks. Like the Steelers are just kind of feeling this year out. Like they picked up DK Metcalf for kind of what reason? Didn't really pick up anyone in the wide receiver room besides DK Metcalf, obviously. Yeah. Running back room got a little bit worse. Caleb Johnson, depending on how he performs, maybe he could have some sort of impact. But you were right. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was horrendous of the Jets. And seeing as how he's now 40 years old and on the back end of his career, year of his career, I'm thinking this is the last year. I really think that they could have just stuck with Will Howard and just seen maybe this is our future guy. And if not, then we get 101 next year.
Well, the good thing about having A-Rod is that you get that veteran to kind of coach Will Howard. Because, I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame quarterback. Potential Hall of Fame quarterback. So you put a guy who just won the Nationals in college behind a Hall of Fame quarterback who's kind of in his last years.
He's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's won a Super Bowl. He's gotten multiple MVPs. So I think this could be a very good kind of learning point for Will Howard in terms of where he'll progress and where he'll end up growing into as an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's obviously just a great dynamic, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, let's jump into our breakout players. So last week we had our breakout players for the AFC Conference, and today we'll be going into the NFC. And let us know what you guys think. Let us know if you guys think that these guys are people who are going to break out or just kind of flop in their second or third year in the NFL. We focused on younger players because obviously I don't think players who are in their 30s and 35 can really break out. But let's jump into it. So let's start off with the Eagles. So I'm going to start with the Eagles, and I'm going to go with Quinyon Mitchell as my breakout player for the Philadelphia Eagles. I know last year was a little bit of a breakout year. He really performed well, shut down most of the players, most of the top receivers in the NFL. And let's talk about Terry McLaurin. All right, week 11, Terry McLaurin had 20 snaps matched up against Quinyon Mitchell, who primarily played a zone corner as an Eagle this year. And he matched up with him 20 times. How many yards do you think Terry McLaurin got? Just give me an answer.
I mean, he had to have at least over 50.
0 yards. Terry McLaurin had 0 yards on Quinyon Mitchell last year. Understandably, Terry McLaurin is maybe he's in your top 10, maybe he's in your top 5, but he is an elite receiver.
Yeah,
he is an elite receiver, and Quinyon Mitchell locked him down. Not only did he do that, he did it with Malik Neighbors, he did it with Cooper Kupp, he did it with Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr. So he's proven himself to be that guy. He allowed 27.2 yards per game to opposing wide receivers, which is really solid. And I don't think it's crazy to say that he could be the best cornerback in the NFL next season. What do you think?
That's what I was thinking. I mean, when you hold a guy like Terry McLaurin out for 20 snaps to 0 yards, like this guy Terry McLaurin was dropping over 80 yards a game pretty much for some games, and you have a rookie just literally straight out of college holding him to 0 yards. I think that you could realistically see him getting a defensive player of the year pretty soon. I think he got robbed of defensive rookie of the year last season, but we'll see. We'll see how he does this season.
Yeah, agreed.
Next up for the Washington Commanders, we got Mike Sanderstill. Now, Mike Sanderstill, great cornerback. He actually led his team, the Washington Commanders, in tackles as a rookie. So I think that was pretty crazy. He had 2 interceptions, 1 forced fumble. These are pretty good stats coming from a rookie, especially on a weak defense, or not a weak defense, a weaker defense from the Commanders.
Yeah, entirely agreed. I mean, Mike Sanderstill was my guy last season coming out of Michigan. Something I always love to say about Mike Sanderstill, he shows up in the big moments, and you need a guy like that if you're going to have a team like the Washington Commanders, who are a tiny bit older on the defensive end, but he's a youngin' who's going to really make a difference. Like Adam said, he led the team in tackles. He had 14 pass breakups last year, and honestly, that's extremely respectable as a rookie. Maybe not, defensive rookie of the year or defensive player of the year, but I think he can truly make an impact, and I think he's going to be really important to their development going forward. Really great player. So moving on to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, I don't feel like have any super specific breakout stars.
Yeah.
Like you have guys in the wide receiver room who could break out. Jalen Tolbert, maybe someone else.
You could say George Pickens since he's playing for a contract this year.
I guess, yeah.
I've seen some things that he's not planning on re-signing with the Cowboys.
Really?
I think he wants to test the market coming up after this season. But I think if he does do well with the Cowboys this season, then he just re-signs with them maybe 2 to 3 years more, and then after that he tests the market once again just to see how his production is later in his career.
Yeah, entirely true. He kind of needs to get that Jalen Tolbert role that Tolbert had last season. So we'll see what he's able to do with it. But our breakout player for the Dallas Cowboys this year is going to be Jadon Blue in the running back room. The 2 guys in front of him are Javonte Williams as well as Miles Sanders, and I don't feel like that's great competition. Now let's talk about Jadon Blue. Jadon Blue at Texas last year averaged 5.4 yards per carry, which is a great number for NFL players. I know that's a little bit less impressive for CFB players, but he led the SEC with 730 yards, and throughout his entire career, he had 1,600 rushing and receiving yards through 38 games, which is truly impressive. For a guy who was playing at Texas all those years, needed to kind of wait his turn to get his spot, and he can receive the ball as well. He had 505 receiving yards, and I believe he had 11 touchdowns. So, really played well throughout all of Texas and showed that versatility across the field, whether it's running through the middle of the field, playing outside, and playing that kind of wide receiver, even potentially slot receiver type role. I'm interested to see how Jadon Blue performs this season. What do you think?
Yeah, so when you have a guy that in college is rushing for 5.4 yards on average, now that like you said, it might not be as high as people want from a college running back, but you got to consider guys like Ashton Genty and Amarian Hampton, who, in my opinion, were the top running backs coming out of this draft class. They were averaging around 6 something. So he's pretty close. And for a 5th round pick, that's not bad. That's kind of right where you want him to be. He's not really your favorite guy, like the best guy coming out, but he's still solid. And I think if you give him a shot, especially in this running back room, I think he can come out and do some good things for this Cowboys team.
Now, do you think there's any chance in year 1 he comes out on top, or do you think no matter what, it'll be some sort of timeshare between the 2 or the 3?
It just depends on how many touches he get. If he's not getting the ball like very often, maybe like 2 to 3 times a game, if he's getting that much playing time, then I don't really see him producing that much. But if you run some sort of scheme where you have 2 running backs and maybe throw him on a receiving kind of back, kind of like Alvin Kamara, then I'd say he gets more production from as a receiving type running back instead of a purely rushing running back.
No, that's definitely possible. Let's move on to our next team, the New York Giants.
Yeah, next up we got Tyrone Tracy Jr. for the New York Giants. Now, this is a guy, I think he can do pretty good things this season. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Tyrone Tracy Jr. So something that really impressed me thoroughly is that this is going to be Tyrone Tracy's third year playing the running back position as a football player. He was a wide receiver throughout all of high school, through the beginning of college, then transitioned to running back for his final year of college and was good enough to get picked up by the Giants. Then last year, kind of already broke out a little bit, like had 839 yards as well as 284 receiving yards. And those are modest numbers for a running back, but for a rookie, those are very good. And for a guy who, like I said, this is going to be his third year playing the position, this is someone who can truly be elite. Like, I think he could crack that top 10 running back room or running back area in the NFL. And with a team like the Giants who are slowly building themselves up, if he's their lead back, he can do great things. And he's one of the few rookie players from last season to surpass 1,000 scrimmage yards, along with a wide receiver. That was Malik Neighbors, obviously.
Yeah.
So moving on to our next team, we have for the Detroit Lions, it's going to be DJ Reed Jr. DJ Reed Jr. Is obviously an extremely valuable player to any organization. He played extremely well with the Jets last season, and he lined up across from Sauce. I think they formed a very good duo. Now, the Lions need help. They need help in their secondary. They can't have a guy like Terry torching them. They can't, when it comes down to those big moments, they need to be able to have a player in the back who can make a play. DJ Reed is a guy who's always been able to make a play. He led the Jets with 52 tackles, 11 pass breakups, and tied for 25th in the league in pass breakups. His PFF grade was a 70 overall, which was 43rd amongst cornerbacks. So maybe his quality is not quite there as we need it to be, but I truly think that he can have an impact on kind of a falling Detroit Lions defense.
Yeah, so DJ Reed, I think he's a good fit on this Lions secondary. They definitely need some work, especially because most of these guys are coming off an injury. I think the Lions had 20-something players that were injured last season, but he kind of stepped up and played pretty well last year. He didn't have any interceptions, but 11 pass breakups, 52 solo tackles. That's pretty good for a guy who's kind of holding down this defense with just a few other guys that are definitely a little bit better than him, but still, for a young guy like him, these are some pretty good stats.
Yeah, for sure. So something that I saw a lot in the comments was that the teams that played against the Detroit Lions last season were playing against their second-string defense. Now, what do you think of that? Do you think last year was their second-string defense? Do you think we can take last year's performance and apply it to this year? Or do you think it's going to be more of the same, that their defense is not as good as people think?
I think their defense was carried by Aaron Glenn. I think because if you look at it, they still made it to the end of the second round of playoffs. Like, they got the 1 seed. So even if they were playing with second strings, you had a coach that was kind of really carrying that team on both sides of the ball. You had Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell. So I think this team was primarily run by its coaching staff and not the quality of its players. Although they do have a lot of talent in every position, I just think that this team will kind of fall apart without that coaching. So I think the Lions kind of fall off this season a little bit. Like we said before, we have them at a 10-7 record. I think the defense kind of lets up this season.
Yeah, that's entirely fair. Let's see how the Detroit Lions do this season. Moving on to our next team, we have the Minnesota Vikings. Who's your breakout player?
Yeah, we got Jonathan Allen. This guy recorded 16 solo tackles and 3 sacks and 7 starts. That's pretty good for a guy coming off. I think he's been in the league for a few years now. He's a two-time.
Quite some time. Yep.
Yeah, two-time Pro Bowler, 42 career sacks, which is pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the final piece for the Commanders is their defensive line, and he adds size, he adds impact, he adds experience, and that is exactly what you need for a young team with an older defense. He needs to be able to make an immediate impact. He needs to be able to get to the quarterback, and that's what he's going to do. I think the Commanders are going to be as impressive as anyone else in the NFL this season, and I think Jonathan Allen will be a big part of that. Let's move on to the Green Bay Packers. Now, this was a tough one. For the Green Bay Packers, they need an elite wide receiver. I think number one in their room is going to be Jaden Reed. And Adams' number one in that room is going to be Matthew Golden. Yeah. So let's break it down. Jaden Reed is the bona fide wide receiver one going into the season because he led the team in receiving, consistently has been that number one guy, and really is the guy who makes big plays for them. But he's been a little bit unimpressive in terms of being a reliable receiver week over week. Like, he'll have weeks with like 20, 30 receiving yards, and you're just like, man, what are you doing out there on the field? So in 17 games last season, I'll just break it down. He had 55 receptions for 857 yards. So still had an 860-yard season, which is not bad. And then along with that, he really provides a unique rushing impact for a team like the Packers. If Jordan Love could get him the ball behind the line of scrimmage a little bit more, that could potentially be something that they use more often. But in terms of a rusher, he ran the ball 20 times last season for 163 yards and had a beautiful rushing touchdown. I don't know what week it was, but had an absolutely incredible rushing touchdown. I think Jaden Reed is the wide receiver one this season for the Green Bay Packers. But Adam, you break down why you think it's Golden.
Yeah, Matthew Golden, they've had pretty similar stats, although Matthew Golden was in college for this last season. But 58 catches, 987 yards. He had 15 total touchdowns, and then I think it's 13 touchdowns just off receptions over 20 games. So I feel like this kind of production will really help the Packers offense. Now, I do think that the Packers do have like 4 wide receiver twos as of right now. So I'm kind of just waiting. I think out of those 4 guys, Matthew Golden comes out and becomes the number one. Maybe not this year, but he'll definitely have it within the next 2 years.
I think what matters most for the Packers wide receivers is who can run those in-breaking routes and if Jordan Love can hit them, because you have a bunch of guys who can make big plays on the outside. But who's your consistent go-to guy? Like maybe someone like Amon-Ra, somebody like JSN, who's just consistent week in and week out, like the Tide, and really can make that impact happen. And I guess we'll see what happens with the Packers.
Next up, we got Rome Odunze for the Chicago Bears. You could honestly go with 2 players for the Bears. You can go Rome Odunze or Caleb Williams, just because I think Caleb Williams is going to thrive with this offensive line. But what do you think about Rome Odunze?
Yeah, I think that Caleb Williams is the obvious choice for breakout player, but that's something that we've stated in multiple weeks. Like, Caleb Williams is that guy. He's going to have a great season this season. Ben Johnson is over there. They look like they've got some great chemistry playing around. I did see Caleb Williams catch a pass the other day, and I also saw an offensive lineman catch a pass, so that means we know that Ben Johnson is there. So he's clearly going to have a good season. Now it's going to matter who's helping him out. Right, in the running back room, we're not sure who it is. My thought is Kyle Monangai, but we will see. In the wide receiver room, it's going to be DJ Moore, who's like that solid. He's had his years of experience. But Rome Odunze, throughout all of college and actually a little bit of last season, really showed that potential to be a consistent guy who's playing the middle of the field as well as beating corners on the outside. So I think he's going to have a great impact. And Caleb really thrives when he can find a guy that he just keeps getting the ball to, So last season, he had 54 catches for 734 yards, along with 3 touchdowns, and he was the wide receiver 3. Keenan Allen was a wide receiver 2. He was a wide receiver 3. He didn't really start too much throughout the season, but this season he will be the starter. So it's going to be really cool to see what Rome Odunze can do with those additional opportunities.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see how Ben Johnson runs this offense, especially with Rome Odunze and DJ Moore. You got both of them playing the inside and the outside. And I think once you can get Caleb Williams, a guy who can run through the middle of the field, catch a ball, take it for 20 yards down, then I think that's really going to help this Bears offense progress and really make a playoff push within the next couple of years.
The name to remember for the Chicago Bears is Kyle Monangai. Anyways, to move on to our next team here, it's going to be Zion McCollum for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC South. The NFC South is a division in which somebody needs to come out on top, and it's going to be the Buccaneers this season. And Zion McCollum is going to be the one who holds down their defense. He's going to be locking up receivers, and the reason I say that is strictly because of his athleticism. Like, this guy can jump out the gym. He's 6'3". He's 200 pounds. He is going to absolutely athletically dominate any receiver that he goes up against. Now, I'm not saying he's holding these guys to 20, 15 yards, similar to a guy like Quinyon Mitchell, but I think that he can have a true impact, and he had a lot of plays last season where it was like he was a few inches away from making a play, but then missed it and gave up a touchdown. So it's like he was unimpressive last season for reasons that I think he'll be impressive this season, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to bolster down their defense. Jamel Dean is also over there, and they've got some key pieces on their defense that need to improve thoroughly if they not only want to win the division, but also have a chance at potentially going to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. All right, moving on to our next team. Well, this is kind of an obvious choice for the Falcons. We got Michael Penix Jr. just because last season he had, I think it was around 3 or 4 career starts in the NFL, and he did pretty good. He wasn't a bad quarterback. He made it to the Natties the year before his rookie year. So I think he has the weapons. He has Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts. He has Bijan Robinson. He has Drake London. So this offense really, they have everything they need to kind of win this division and make a real playoff push. But Other than that, I think Michael Penix, he's kind of set up to be one of the better sophomore quarterbacks. I did think he was one of the better rookie quarterbacks coming into last season. I really didn't like how the Falcons took him when they already had Kirk. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. When I saw Michael Penix's name pop up on the screen, I was thoroughly disappointed because I thought Kirk Cousins was their guy. Now, watching last season, I thought it was a great pick. Like, after watching Kirk absolutely fall apart throughout the season, and then Michael Penix come in and kind of provide some stability and really connect with Drake London really well. Like, I saw a stat. Darnell Mooney and Drake London both had about 800 yards last season while Kirk Cousins was starting. And the second Michael Penix came in, it was clear that Drake London was the wide receiver one. Now, this is not to take away from Darnell Mooney. This is to say that when a quarterback can find his wide receiver one, that's when you truly establish the structure you need to put together a championship team. Michael Penix has his guy. Michael Penix is going to be very good. Drake London is going to be very good. And that means the Falcons are going to be very good. Put it simply like that.
Yeah.
Let's go on to our next team. So for the Saints, we have someone who I think is a little under the radar. It's Brian Bresee, and he's someone who had a great college career. Like I remember at Clemson, he was just absolutely dominating offenses, just going through, getting to the quarterback, doing what needed to be done to make sure his team got the win. He didn't have a huge impact on the Saints last season, and I will say about the Saints, they're going to suck this year.
Yeah,
It'll be very bad.
I have them being the worst team in the NFL.
I mean, we had them at 2 wins.
Yeah, something like that. It's either them or the Browns getting the first pick next year. Actually, no, Browns don't have their first rounder from last year.
No, the Browns have 2 first rounders.
Oh, they have 2 first rounders.
So, by the way, great trade by the Browns. But going back to the Saints, Brian Bresee is going to be kind of that bright spot if they have a few. I think another guy who could also is Kendre Miller if Alvin Kamara kind of takes that dip that a lot of running backs do take typically at this stage in their career. But it's going to be hopefully a big year for Brian Bresee. We got our eyes on him for the upcoming future. Let's dive into the Rams. We're going to go with
Terrence Ferguson.
Terrence Ferguson plays tight end for the Rams coming out of Oregon. What are your thoughts on the Rams passing game? What do they need to improve now that Cooper Kupp is gone and Devontae Adams is there?
So I think this wide receiver, this is coming from a Seahawks fan as well. The Rams wide receiver room and just receiving core is looking pretty solid. They got Puka Nacua, who's arguably a top 10 wide receiver in the league. I mean, just the way he plays the game, the catches he makes, the routes he runs, he just plays the game to an elite level, especially for how young he is. And Devontae Adams, seasoned veteran. I mean, this is kind of crazy for Puka because he went from having Cooper Kupp, who had arguably one of the greatest wide receiver seasons of all time, to having Devontae Adams, who could potentially be a Hall of Fame wide receiver. So I think this is going to help Puka's production a lot. And Terrence Ferguson, that's kind of like the last piece of the puzzle they need. They just need a tight end who can go out there and make plays, kind of assist with the kind of short passes whenever they need a check down if someone's getting locked up, which probably isn't going to happen often unless you're playing the Seahawks.
Yeah, you hit it right on the nose. I think Tyler Higbee is there as a veteran, but they obviously need someone a little bit younger. And I think I said this even last time that the Rams need to get younger. Like Stafford is on his way out, and he's still a very good quarterback, but he's getting old. He's going to retire at some point. So they need to look to get a little younger, and I think Terrence Ferguson just adds another piece to that. He played really well at Oregon. I watched a bunch of his games, and I thought that he was truly an impactful player with a guy like Dylan Gabriel. And if you think about it, Gabriel and Stafford don't play too differently. Both really excel in short passing and their accuracy, not like a huge ton of mobility. I know Gabriel had that 90-yard carry, but not a huge ton of mobility between the two of them, but they know how to find their guys. And that's what Matt Stafford will be doing with Terrence Ferguson this season. So for all you fantasy football heads out there, Terrence Ferguson is the rookie tight end that you want to have this season. I know the guys like Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren are there, but you can get Terrence Ferguson at a much cheaper price in your drafts. So go get him while you still can.
All right, next up, we got the Seattle Seahawks, and my breakout player is Ernest Jones Jr. He kind of had a breakout season last year, but I think he goes absolutely crazy this year. They just re-signed him to a new contract, and last year you could just see him absolutely dominate the field. Ernest Jones Jr. is kind of I forgot what it was. I think he had one of the most almost the most amount of tackles as a linebacker in the league, which is kind of crazy. I think it was around 90 something like that. But yeah, he had a couple of interceptions, maybe one or two. And I really like the way he plays. He knows how to stop the run. He knows how to stop the passes. He's kind of just a very well-rounded linebacker.
Yeah, just to break down Ernest Jones Jr.'s impact on the field, he played 5 games last season and had 39 tackles. Now, that's an average of how many? That's about 70 7.9 tackles per game. If you look at the league leader last year, I forget who it was, but he had around 165 tackles in 18 games. So, you break that up game by game, and they're only averaging 10 tackles per game, whereas Ernest is around 7.98. That's a very solid number. So if he can improve a little bit more, he's 25 years old. If he can really take that next step, he could potentially lead the league in tackles.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting for the Seahawks to have a really dominant guy. You got a bunch of other pieces on that defense, too. You have Leonard Williams, you have Spoon, you got Reek Willen. I mean, I know this is your team, so break down what you're excited about for the Seahawks defense besides Ernest Jones Jr.
I mean, we got the guy from the Cowboys. What was it? DeMarcus Lawrence?
Correct, yep.
Yeah, so we got him. We got Boy Mayf, and we got Byron Murphy all on that line. I think that's a pretty dominant line. Could be potentially top 10, top 5. I really think this defense is going to excel next year, and we're going to have teams not scoring against us. That's just how dominant this defense is going to be, especially with a very defensive-minded coach like Mike McDonald.
Yeah, solid take. We'll see what we get out of the Seahawks defense this year. I know Adam has the Seahawks performing really well, so if the defense can come through and Darnold and JSN establish a connection, I don't see why not.
And you got Cooper Kupp and Torrey Horton.
Cooper Kupp and Torrey Horton. Those are our guys. Let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals, our breakout player for this year is going to be our breakout player for this year is going to be Will Johnson, cornerback, drafted in the second round, I believe. And this guy was truly elite in college. I thought that he was one of the best corners in college before he got hurt. And now for him to go to a team like the Cardinals who severely need cornerback help. I know they've got Max Melton there who played at Rutgers and it was incredible. But, two young guys at cornerback, I don't think you can complain. So they need to start locking in on defense a little bit more. They need to if they want their offense to perform well, they need to keep their defense off the field and put their offense on the field.
Yeah.
And the thing about a guy like Will Johnson is what he's going to do is he's going to bring the ball back to his quarterback. And that's something that he said. So I expect him to do that next season and really show the impact he has. I think he could potentially have an opportunity to win Defensive Rookie of the Year if he makes that impact from day one. If he's not a starter, then maybe not, but using a second-round pick on him. But what do you think?
Something I thought was cool about the Cardinals picking him up was he's a Michigan guy, of course, Will Johnson, and then Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State guy.
Okay.
So when they line up against each other in
practice, it's going to be real beef.
Yeah, it's going to be some competitive practices for them. But other than that, I didn't think Will Johnson had the best season in college last year just because he was coming off injury. He didn't really get too many interceptions or compared to other seasons. But other than that, very well-rounded cornerback, pretty solid guy. I wouldn't go as far to say he's going to reach the top 10 anytime soon, but he'll be that piece that kind of helps the Cardinals. Like you said, helps their offense stay on the field more often than what they have right now, especially because we know how Kyler Murray likes to throw his picks since he can't see over his offensive line.
Everyone loves to clown Kyler Murray. To jump into our final player of the episode for Breakout Players, for the San Francisco 49ers, who do you think is their breakout player?
Ricky Pearsall. I think with a wide receiver room that has Juwan Jennings, who we know is a great player, we saw him break out last year pretty much.
Yep.
And then you got Brandon Ayuk, who I think is going to pretty much fall off just because he's coming off an injury, and he's kind of, I think his team chemistry and his chemistry with coaches has gone down a lot, so he's not going to get as many reps. And then you got Ricky Pearsall, a guy who can make spectacular catches. He can run routes inside, outside. So I think they're going to find a way to use him a lot more than they did last year. And I feel like he's pretty similar to Juwan Jennings in play style. So if you have two Juwan Jennings on both sides of the ball, both guys making these spectacular catches, they're running these routes, just kind of blowing past your defense, I think the Niners offense they'll be doing pretty well this year, especially if CMC can't come back like how he was a couple of years ago.
Something that's really interesting about CMC is that he's 28 years old. Like, I feel like every time I think of Christian McCaffrey, I feel like he's like 30 years old, 30, 32 years old at this point. He's been in the league for so long, and he's been at the top of the league for so long. So I'm interested to see how CMC comes back this season, but I'm also expecting a big season for Christian McCaffrey. I think him and Brock Purdy have great chemistry, as we've all already known. But just talk about Ricky Pearsall a little bit, through the adversity that he's been through and kind of the play that he showed us last season. He's a big-bodied receiver who can do it all, and that's exactly what you want out of your receiver. So for the same reasons that Adam mentioned, I think that this is the year for Ricky Pearsall. That kind of wraps up our breakout players. I think our number one guy on this list is Quinyon Mitchell. I think he's going to have the biggest impact and kind of the biggest change in his career because, like we said, I think Quinyon Mitchell becomes the number one cornerback in the NFL this season.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see a Defensive Player of the Year award coming his way, at least one or two maybe throughout his career. If he can stay healthy, because I know he got injured a little bit last year. I think he missed a couple games. But if he can stay healthy and continue locking down these elite guys, like I know he only played a couple snaps against Malik Neighbors, but he held him to 5 yards. Brian Thomas Jr., 5 yards. Mike Evans, 5 yards. So these are like elite level guys that he's holding down to very few amount of yards. And Terry McLaurin, 20 snaps, 0 yards. I think that he's got really good things coming his way.
Truly impressive. Yeah, so just to kind of close things out, I mean, we just wanted to go through a few questions that we had. We just posted a video on TikTok where we asked our followers to ask us a few questions. So we're going to be breaking those down here. So first question that I have for you, and this is actually not a follower-related question. This is just coming from me. Between Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., who's your number one and why?
I'm going to go Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think the production that these guys had with these like terrible quarterbacks, like you have terrible quarterbacks coming from the Giants. You had, what was it, Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito throwing him the ball.
Drew Lock, Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito. And Malik Neighbors is still performing the way he's performing. I think that once you get him a real quarterback, even with Russell Wilson this year, I think he can actually go crazy, especially with these deep balls that Russell Wilson will be throwing. We know how Malik Neighbors can just blow by your defense, just absolutely obliterate your cornerback. So I'll have him at my one. And then Brian Thomas Jr., he's pretty much the same thing as Malik Neighbors. I just think he played a little worse than him. Not saying he was bad, but just a little bit worse than Malik Neighbors. I think that Brian Thomas Jr. playing with Mac Jones for most of his rookie year still put up, 900, almost 1,000 yards.
Yep.
I think he had like around, it was something like 6 touchdowns, something like that.
For Brian Thomas Jr.?
Yeah.
I think he had almost 1,300 yards actually. He had 10 touchdowns. Yeah, so he actually played a lot better than even you thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I have him at my 2, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. My comparison for him is DK Metcalf.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're pretty similar in the way they play, and I think he's better than DK Metcalf, to be honest. But I just don't think that he's going to be able to thrive with Kyler Murray at quarterback. So that's kind of going to slow his production down for a good amount of time. So those are my top 3. What about you?
Between Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and Marvin Harrison Jr., this is my list. I have Malik Neighbors at the 1. He was clearly far and away the best receiver. I'm going to put Marvin Harrison Jr. at my wide receiver at number 2, and I'm going to have Brian Thomas Jr. at number 3. Something I will say is the 3 of them are very close, but the reason I have Malik at number 1 is because I feel like he did the most with the least amount and also caught the important targets, as in the ones that truly make you an elite receiver in the NFL, which is those in-breaking routes, which is those contested catches, that beautiful catch in the end zone that he had last season. I mean, just there's a large amount of reasons why I have Malik at number 1, but the big difference that we have is that Marv is my 2 and BTJ is my 3. The reason I have Marv at my 2 is because of his college production as well as his ability to find the rock. I think that when he really turns it on, he has an elite ability to destroy the corner, run the route, and then on top of that, make a play towards the end zone. He kind of reminds me of Justin Jefferson in that regard, and I think that this year is kind of when he takes that next step. We didn't put him as our breakout player because I feel like Will Johnson he's going to have a larger impact, but I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a great year this year.
You said it. You was talking about his college, but like this is NFL. This is different. You can't really
understandable, but
bring up college after you've already played 1 season in the league.
No, of course, but I think that you still have to speak to it because it's still his football career. You know, like the way that he broke down. I mean, I know you remember watching Marvin Harrison Jr. highlights. Like those were beautiful. So I think we trust Marvin Harrison Jr. for 1 more season, but BTJ is right behind him. The only reason I have BTJ a little bit lower is just because a lot of his passes were deep balls, and that's not to discredit him. Like I think he ran the routes to grab those deep balls. So I think it's more about Marv being a better receiver than we think rather than BTJ being a worse receiver than we think.
The only reason I say Marvin Harrison Jr. is kind of like DK Metcalf is because he's big and fast. And he makes those spectacular catches every now and then.
Did you see his shoulders in the recent media day?
Yeah.
they're like this big.
Yeah, he's gotten a lot bigger. So I mean, he's really fast. He's really big.
Yeah.
And we know he can catch. So he honestly catches a lot better than DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf has
much better hands.
No hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got one question for you. If you can change one NFL move, like trade, signing, but whatever, what would you do?
I would have the Bears picking Patrick Mahomes instead of Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, that's just the worst pick I've ever even seen. If you wanted to pick a quarterback, pick Patrick Mahomes. But I understand. Mitch Trubisky was a better prospect. Patrick Mahomes had the better tools. And he clearly had something that Trubisky didn't, as in he wins games, he makes that impact, and he does what it takes to win games. So that's something that I feel like the Bears should have seen. Now, the scouting was different back then. The stats were different. Trubisky was truly elite throughout all of his years. But that's a big mistake, and that has cost them. I mean, now it's 7 years ago that they picked Mitch Trubisky, and the Bears have not gotten back up on their feet.
But wouldn't I mean? I feel like if they picked up Patrick Mahomes, then it kind of would have been like Bryce Young, because Bryce Young was hyped up to be this elite, amazing quarterback. I mean, they traded all these picks, which that would have been my move for the Panthers. But I'll get to that in a second. But Bryce Young was projected to be this great guy, and then he kind of just didn't produce anything for his first year. But I mean, he's in his, what is it, third or fourth year now?
Third year.
Yeah, third year. So we'll see how he does. He seems to be heating up a little bit, but I think Patrick Mahomes would have had a similar effect, although he would have been playing at a higher level just because we see the way he is now.
For sure. It's all about situational awareness and how you can perform. But, I mean, you see Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's on top of the world. Second on top of the world. Jalen Hurts is number one. But, yeah, I mean, so if you could change one NFL move in the past or the present, what would it be?
Yeah, like I said, I would have the Panthers holding on to their first round pick or all their picks and not trading up with the Bears. Because if you look at it, the Panthers could have gotten Caleb Williams. They would have kept what's his name? I'm blanking. DJ Moore. They would have been able to get Luther Burden because that's who the Bears got.
Yep.
So these are all guys that would significantly increase the production on this Panthers team. And they could have used those picks to get more on the defense, even though I think their defense is pretty solid for where they're at currently. But yeah, I think that was just a horrible trade on the Panthers' end, but great fleece from the Bears.
For sure. Going into our final couple questions. So this question is actually going to be from Free Trees 123 in our comments on TikTok. Go follow the Slot Pod TikTok. But will Travis Hunter play both ways, and how many snaps or what percentage of snaps will he play on both sides?
I think it'll kind of play like if they need him here, if they need him there. Just kind of depends on what the play is, what the scheme they're running is. If they're kind of running a defense where they need someone to help out on the cornerback side, then they'll put him in. Or if they need him to help out on the wide receiver side, like maybe if they want to run 4 wide receivers or they want to run like a third cornerback, if they do something like that, then they can put him in. But I feel like it looks like he wants to play majority wide receiver, so I think that's what will happen as of right now.
Yeah, Travis Hunter has the best ball skills I've ever seen in my entire life, and I'm just going to say that right now. He's going to be absolutely unbelievable. I'm kind of hoping he takes the wide receiver 1 role away from Brian Thomas Jr. Because I really like Travis Hunter as a player. I think he's really exciting. Everyone keeps talking about his dancing, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun in the end zone because Travis Hunter is going to have 1,000 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns and 10 interceptions this season. Stamp it. On to the next question.
What's the next question? Oh, yeah. Who do you have as a better running back? Because I have Gibbs, but you have Bijan. So why do you say Bijan is better than Gibbs?
I think Bijan Robinson is better than Jahmyr Gibbs simply because of his tools. He's a more physical back. He's a more reliable back. And although Jahmyr Gibbs just can get through basically every single hole there is out there, I think Bijan has a potential to almost be as good as Saquon is now and really have that impact on a championship team. He can receive the ball. Bro, did you see his first NFL touchdown?
I did.
He just killed the defense. That solidified it for me. And as much as I love Jahmyr Gibbs, I think Bijan Robinson is the better running back. And what are your thoughts on Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs? You said Jahmyr Gibbs is your number 1, but why?
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, he's probably my top 5 running backs of all time.
Yeah.
It might be my number 3. I'd have Saquon, Derrick Henry, and then Gibbs.
Wait, pause. Did you say all time?
No, running back.
Oh, you said all time. I got scared there for a second. Rephrase that.
Yeah. So he'd be in my top 5 as of right now. But I just don't think Gibbs is. I don't think Bijan is that guy. I think he's kind of overrated. I think if the Falcons, they can maybe get someone to pair him up with and kind of, I really just don't like Bijan, to be honest. I don't like the Falcons at all. But Bijan, he's okay, maybe top 10, but Gibbs is just that guy. Like, he'll run through your defense. He'll take your guys' knees out, everything. And even with David Montgomery pairing up with him, he still had around 1,000 yards that season, and he was still scoring touchdowns. He's doing everything you needed a running back one to do, and he kind of took that spot from David Montgomery, who finished the season around 600-700 yards, something like that.
I think they both had 1,000 last season too.
No, I think Gibbs was.
We'll look it up. Yeah.
David Montgomery was injured, and then he capped out at like 600, something like that. But
oh yes, he had that funny thing where his rushing line was set at a certain amount of yards,
and
he felt like one yard short.
Yeah.
So I think, just to sum it up, like, it's more about Bijan not being as good for you, and for me, it's more about what Bijan can be.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be interesting. I want to see how Gibbs does as the RB1 with no David Montgomery. So maybe that's like, 2
we
years
saw
down the
that.
line. No, but like for a whole season, I want to see the whole season.
Well, I mean, he was still playing competitive teams, and he was still,
of course,
going through it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, that ends our questions for today. Make sure you guys drop some extra questions on the TikTok in the comments, and we're going to be opening up a Discord soon. So drop a comment, drop the slot in the comments, and we will add you to our Discord. We are going to be running a fantasy football league as well, so we're excited to have everyone join. So stay tuned in for episode 7 next week. We're going to have some exciting content. Follow the TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify, and we'll see y'all next week.